Awake thou that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Good morning, morning, morning. What are you doing? No, not right now. What are you doing?
I'm watching Last Call.
Okay, when you get done with this, what are you going to do? When you call in today, what are you going to tell us you've been doing? In 2009, well, okay, I'll get the disclaimer out of the road. You're about to listen to 2 hours of opinion and entertainment supplied by Last Call Radio. We're not doctors, lawyers, politicians, professional journalists, nor do either one of us hold a doctorate degree in anything, not that that would make any difference this day and age, our opinion, of course. We only ask that you, as an individual and or corporately, not take our statements or those that we voice from others personal, nor do we recommend that you act on them as if they were facts, although they might very well be just that, facts, that our opinion, of course. You're not required to listen to, act on, or repeat anything that you hear today, although you should. And that any information or opinion we present is meant for the good of the order and by no means intended to harm or threaten anyone. What are you doing? Hopefully we can get to some of the folks that are. What about Hurricane Helene? It's over with. Everybody's okay. We don't hear a thing about that. It's been overshadowed by a presidential election. Presidential elections are important, but so is what's happening or not happening in the Carolinas. Those folks needs help. I sent an email out this week asking folks for an opinion on something, and that is, as I understand it, maybe some of the folks that, if we can get them in today, will confirm this. If I understand it, you have the basics. You have food, water, and shelter. And I think all those are threatened. I think probably the shelter is the biggest one, maybe the water. But what are those folks doing for shelter? And we've had towns that have almost been completely destroyed. What do we do? I think we ought to have a town east, a town north, south, or west, whatever we can build it right next to it, and then do whatever we can with what's left of the town. I mean, there's it's changed. The river has changed. But if go ahead.
It's stolen some people's property.
Yeah,
but I've got a 1-minute video here to share about somebody who is doing something, and
this is Do Radio, folks.
He's a good contact if you can help. Here it goes.
Urgent warning. The Red Cross is set to close shelters across North Carolina by Friday the 15th. Families staying in these shelters have been told if they don't have a safe place to go, they won't be taking their children with them. Authorities will step in and keep the children. This is not just a rumor. It's been confirmed by the Department of Family Services and Red Cross volunteers. If you or someone you know is facing the risk of being separated from their children, reach out to me immediately. I'm coordinating with various organizations and hundreds of individuals who are ready to open their homes to those in need, as well as organizations willing to help on the legal side of things. We cannot let families be torn apart. My priority is finding safe spaces where parents and children can stay together. Even if the situation is not ideal, what matters most is that these families remain whole and supported during this crisis. If you're in a position to help by offering shelter or know of places that can take in families, please contact me as soon as possible. I'm compiling a list of available resources and need all hands on deck to ensure no family faces this nightmare alone. Please share and repost this message far and wide. Time is running out and every bit of help counts.
I want to bring Clay in because Clay is in East Tennessee. And Clay, you just heard that video. What do you think, brother?
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can, sir. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you here's the thing, Jim, or BJ. What he said, it may or may not be true, but the people I'm talking to on the ground that are connected with the people that are living in the tents, say so far, that's not been confirmed. So far, nobody that I can firsthand or secondhand information and being told that they're going to have to leave on Friday and that their kids, are going to be taken away from them if they don't have adequate shelter. So now I think it's good that the urgency's put out there,
yes.
Even if it was, let's say it's untrue. It's good that there's some urgency being put out there because there's people that's living in tents right now and inadequate shelters, and the weather is already cold here at night, and next week it's going to be down into freezing temperatures. And if we don't get these people out of these tents and inadequate shelters, then there's going to be some major problems. And then I wouldn't be surprised if people don't step in and take children's services don't come in and try to do something, because at that point it's going to be, it's already, in my opinion, code red critical because it's already cold at night.
Yeah. And you're in East Tennessee, is that correct?
Yes, Upper East Tennessee.
Okay, and you've been helping out down there, and we appreciate that. It's just so quiet. It's like there's a news media blackout. Nobody's talking about what's going on down there, and there's hundreds of thousands of people that have needs down there. There's cities that are been completely destroyed. And one of the things that I wrote to my congressman this week, and I'm going to talk to other congressmen and whoever I can, but I would like to see, this is a raw idea, folks, but housing is a big need down there. If we could get 250, 500 construction companies to pick out a city, maybe 2 or 3 per city, and start building some sort of homes, because to me that's what they need, right?
Yes, and there is some people that are gathering together and doing some good works. There's some people that are building tiny homes.
Yes, yeah.
But we're not talking about in mass numbers. We're talking about a few people trying to get together and do this. And the last report I saw a couple of days ago were that they were shorthanded on volunteers. Now, that's not because there's a lack of volunteers, but coordination on those efforts, I think, more than anything. So we're talking about however many, let's say that we've got 300 homes destroyed on the Tennessee side. I'm just guessing, just putting a number out there. 300 homes destroyed on the Tennessee side. That would be 300 families. So we need 300 tiny homes just on the Tennessee side. So why can't there be, like you said, why can't there be a coordinated effort to go ahead and get this done before winter hits? And then what do we pay taxes for all these years to the federal government if FEMA's not out here and they send our money to the Ukraine and we don't have FEMA out here putting FEMA trailers out for our own American people? That's what I have a big problem with right now, more than anything.
Okay. Housing is an issue, folks. This is a raw idea. Somebody needs to take this ball and run with it. Do I expect my congressman to do anything? Heavens no. But it's putting it out there. We're starting the conversation. What I'm doing is starting a conversation. Where it ends up, I don't know, but hopefully somebody's going to say, oh, I never thought about that. Let's do something. And you're right. We spend billions of dollars over in Ukraine and other countries, and we have illegal aliens, and they are illegal aliens. They are invading our land, and we're giving them money and credit cards and putting them up in hotels. What? Yeah. What about the Americans? What about the veterans? Good Lord, man. What? Folks, you need to get into the battle. You need to understand what's going on there. If you sit and watch it on TV like the old Vietnam War, it's great to sit there with your favorite adult beverage and just relax and watch it at a distance. This is coming to America, folks. It's here. Yeah, Donald Trump is going to be our new president, but we can't depend on him. We cannot depend on him. We cannot depend on the federal government. You have to get engaged locally. Locally. I mean, there's a lot of celebration about the president, and there's a lot of details about, oh, well, this city was red or this city was blue. Yeah, great information, okay? But we need to engage the culture, folks, and it starts at the local level. We're going to have Sheriff Mack come on here shortly. And one of the key assets that we have is the law enforcement in your county, and that's local, and it affects your city. It affects your township, and you need to find out whether you have an ally there, and if you don't, you need to create one, because they can be very helpful for you. They can interpose on your behalf, folks. It's very, very important. Thanks, Clay. I really appreciate. I didn't ask you, Clay, but are there any involvement in there? Let's bring. Is there any involvement there with regards to local sheriffs or local law enforcement? What kind of a role have they been playing, or have you noticed?
Well, up towards what they call Mountain City, Tennessee, which is in the further east corner before you go out of the state, way up in the upper tip. That sheriff, from what I have been told, has been tasked early on with the responsibility of overseeing the donations that are coming in. And the reason why is because there was a resident that had their home wiped out, that had took up that charge and was trying to disperse those to the people. But she wasn't what you would consider certified. And so because she wasn't considered certified by anybody, then she was basically being charged with the accusation that she was stealing those supplies. And so when this circumstance came up, the sheriff was tasked with overseeing of that county, was tasked with overseeing all the donations coming in. He had to gather all the donations, put them in the armory, and then try to put a team together of people to document every donation that come in so that he could be responsible for what came in and went out. And see, there was no organization for this set up prior to him just having this responsibility put on him. So that bogged things down and held things up when the people needed to get what they needed,
Clay,
it wasn't because the sheriff did anything wrong.
Yep.
But the system wasn't in place.
Yeah, they aren't trained in that.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Clay. God bless you, and keep up the good work, brother.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
You and Coach Dave Dobmeyer and company. Mr. Anderson, we're going to take a break here, and then we're going to bring on our guest, Sheriff Mack. I want to give him a little extra time. That video we're going to have to put on hold for a moment or two. I didn't know where it was going to go this morning, but folks, you're listening to Last Call. This is Do Radio. You're going to hear from doer. You just heard from a doer, and you're going to hear from more of them. This is what we need to do. This is what we need to emphasize. Those people that are doing out there this morning. Sheriff Mack is like the Energizer Bunny. This guy has been incredible, and just continues and continues and continues. And yeah, this isn't a day or a week or a year effort, folks. This is going to go on for the rest of your life, because evil never stops. They got to have that power. If you would, Mr. Anderson, take us to break.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
And we are back, and we have a guest. Go ahead and bring Sheriff Mack on, if you would, Mr. Anderson. We have a great guest this morning. Sheriff Mack has been engaged in this battle for decades. He has gone after the federal government. He has interposed on our behalf. And with him, I think this started with the Brady gun bill, which is basically a launching pad to take away our Second Amendment rights. I'm sorry. And I can't. Sheriff Mack, welcome to Last Call, brother. I appreciate it. What you been up to? And I know we got you up early this morning. You're out in California this morning?
Yes, I am. We've had some family activities out here, but I keep working regardless of our granddaughter's birthday. So,
well, for family,
yeah, of course, and but it's fine. I work 24/7, 7 days a week, and
yeah.
it doesn't matter when it is, and even on Sunday, if there's something I need to do, I believe this is the Lord's work, and this helping others and saving our country is a 7 day week a 7 day week per week job, and I you know what, I've been called to do this, and this is what I do.
Amen, amen. So what are you doing now? I guess historically, what got you into the game? I'm going to make this brief because we got some folks that are going to have some questions for you.
Of course. Yeah. Well, what got me into the game is I decided way back in 1988 to run for sheriff in my hometown of Graham County, and I won miraculously. It was an absolutely miraculous election, and then I was reelected in 1992. And I had dedicated myself to the Constitution as a rookie cop back in 1983. And I studied the Constitution, and I was completely converted to it and to the mission of the Founding Fathers. And so when the Brady Bill came out, I recognized it immediately as being unconstitutional.
Yep.
The Brady Bill tried to commandeer the office of sheriff nationwide to work for the federal government, and that we would be subject to the demands of the federal government. And I said, no, the federal government doesn't have any authority whatsoever to order or command the sheriffs of this country. So I became the first sheriff in American history to file a major lawsuit against the federal government, the Clinton administration, no less. And then 6 other sheriffs joined me in that lawsuit. And Sheriff Prince from Montana and I ended up at the Supreme Court, and we were there. We were there in person in December of 1996, and then Justice Scalia wrote the decision that came out June 27, 1997, and it clearly stated that the federal government is not our boss, and that the federal government does not have the authority. And he clarifies the Commerce Clause. He clarifies the Supremacy Clause, where the federal government claims it has supremacy over the states. And he stated clearly, he quoted the Federalist Papers, and he even quoted the Federalist Paper where it said that local municipalities, local authorities share the supremacy. The federal government is not supreme, and they're not king, and they can't order us around. And it was a huge case. It's the most powerful 10th Amendment state sovereignty case in the history of our country. And I highly recommend that everybody get more information about that at CSPOA.org.
CSPOA.org.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's an organization. We can talk a little bit about that. You mentioned superiority.
Yeah.
And something that we need to discuss that most people don't really have that much knowledge of. The sheriff, what is the sheriff's position locally and nationally?
Well, he's the CLEO, the chief law enforcement officer. And the Brady Bill itself actually mentions that they were going to give these orders to the CLEOs of America. Well, the CLEOs are the sheriffs. They did it. They came to us. They came to the sheriffs. They clearly stated that we, the sheriffs of this country, are the CLEOs. And then Scalia actually said it in his decision that the CLEOs, this question and challenge by the CLEOs must be sought in historical practice and understanding. So Scalia just takes us through a history lesson. He doesn't try to come up with anything new. He doesn't try to promote political dogma. He promotes the history and constitutionality of the office of sheriff and of the issue of federalism. And it's the most powerful federalism case in the history of our country. And I'm so proud to say that I was a small part of this huge miracle.
CSPOA.org. I'm going to get that up on the screen here shortly.
Yeah, somebody just put it up just a second ago.
Okay. Yeah. Well, save my work.
Yeah.
So if I have, let's say I had a visit by the FBI, and it wasn't one of those early morning visits. It's just a afternoon visit, leisure afternoon visit.
Okay.
And they knock on my door, and I don't really want to talk to them. What as a citizen can I do?
Don't open the door. You don't have to.
Okay.
If they have a no-knock warrant, they're going to open the door for you.
Yes.
They will bash in your door. But if they don't have paperwork and have any reason to be there, but the second thing you do is you call 911, you call the sheriff's office and say, there are men here who I'm not sure who they are, and I would like a deputy. I would like the sheriff to know but I would like a deputy here to find out what these people are doing on my doorstep.
Yeah, there's some men out front.
And then wait for them to get there.
Yeah, there's some men out front. They have guns. What should I do, Sheriff?
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly correct. And so just call them, and but this should be cut off at the pass. The sheriff should put every federal bureaucracy and every state bureaucracy on notice that if they come into his county, they need to contact him first. You just check in with the sheriff. This does not hurt anybody. This is a checks and balance system. The Constitution is a checks and balance system. And that's what we have here. For any sheriff to allow the IRS and the FBI or the DEA, with all their history of criminality, to come into his county and do anything they want to the citizens of his county is absolute a miscarriage of justice. It's maladministration, and it's simply immoral and wrong. The sheriff is in charge, and the sheriffs have the responsibility to keep their oath of office and to be what they've always been for 1,000 years, the ultimate protector of the people and the conservator of the peace. He promised in God's name, when he took his oath, before he took his job, he took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution and protect it from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And so right now, it just is really sad, but the greatest threat to our God-given American liberty has been our own federal government.
Yes, sir.
And I'm really looking forward to the new administration and to see that they're going to stop this. But the sheriffs have got to be prepared, and they've got to be able to stop it, and they need to help President Trump with his agenda to restore our Constitution as the supreme law of the land and create peace across our country. But the best way to do that is county by county, and we still need our sheriffs to be part of this.
So if I don't want to wear a mask, what happens?
Most sheriffs now have made a strong commitment that won't happen again.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and during COVID, there were over 550 sheriffs nationwide, even some in New York and some in California. There were 25 sheriffs in California that refused to enforce those mandates. And so it'll be double that easy this next time. And so we're proud of those sheriffs that did that.
There was one here in Ohio, one or two here in Ohio.
You had Sheriff Jones in Butler County, Ohio, that came out strong against it.
Yep. CSPOA. What does that stand for? What are you doing?
Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And this association is a partnership with the people. And as a matter of fact, we have on our website the Sheriff's Posse, the CSPOA Posse, that every citizen should join. And that's where we receive our funding. It's from the American people. And this is the plan that works, because we, the people, the first three words of the Constitution, are part of this peaceful and effective solution. It's just about the only peaceful and effective solution we have left in America. Mm-hmm. And it will not work. It will not remain peaceful if the sheriffs and we, the people, are not involved in the process. We ask all of you to join us in this holy cause of liberty and be a part of erecting the barriers, as Madison called it, erecting the barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. And until we get some of these agencies reined in, we're going to need the people and the sheriffs to help do what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are doing, and President Trump, and do this. And I'm going to tell you right now, the first thing that needs to be on the chopping block from the oversight of spending would be to defund Planned Parenthood.
Whoa, that'll draw a crowd. CSPOA, is that just for sheriffs?
No, it's for sheriffs, peace officers, public officials, county commissioners, city council, and the American people. We have to have that partnership, or this isn't going to work.
So even BJ can be part of this?
Absolutely. We want you.
I got you. How many sheriffs across the United States would you say are mentally or physically a part of this organization at the present time?
Well, we've trained over 1,000 sheriffs and many other deputies and public officials over the last 7 or 8 years. Mm-hmm. But about half of those aren't there anymore. And I'd say we have a nucleus of about 300 sheriffs that are staunch constitutional sheriffs. But we actually need a third of all the sheriffs, and that would be 1,000. Our goal is to have 1,000 sheriffs that will not compromise on their oath of office. They will not compromise on defending the Constitution and promoting and defending civil rights of the American people. It is key that we understand that our responsibility is to protect the rights of the people and not just write tickets and make arrests, which may be part of the job, but the ultimate goal of the job of the sheriff is to protect the God-given rights, the civil rights of every American citizen in his county.
The sheriff reports to we the people, folks. They're elected by us. Now there's some changes. I think Pennsylvania, some other states are trying to take their ability to interpose on our behalf by saying, well, no. We're going to take that away from the public. We're going to have an elected official assign who the sheriff's going to be, or they're going to be under a certain department, and that neutralizes. And folks, you don't have if your sheriff is a constitutional sheriff, you're in good shape. Okay, you're in very good shape because he can interpose on your behalf. If the federal government comes in or the state comes in and they do something that's unconstitutional, they're going to take away your liberties and civil rights. That sheriff will interpose on your behalf, and that won't happen. But you need to find out if you do have a constitutional sheriff. Is there any questions? Maybe a question or two we could ask them that would kind of help us determine whether they're going to help us or not.
Oh, of course. First of all, you want to make an appointment with your sheriff and sit down with him, take some cookies for him and his department, and say, do you consider yourself a constitutional sheriff? And then if it's yes, ask him other questions. Did you enforce COVID mandates? Or if it happens again, maybe he wasn't sheriff then, maybe he's a new sheriff. Would you ever enforce those again? What will you do if they ever try to come confiscate our guns? What will you do? And those should be some telltale answers right there. And just, you've got to have a relationship with your sheriff, and you've got to make those calls. And it really needs to be this cohesive relationship between the people and the sheriff. And without it, this cause for freedom is going to really be impossible.
Would you recommend going alone or taking a crowd with you?
Take a few others, not a big crowd, and then invite him to come to your crowd later at your church or at your home or wherever. But take a few with you at that time and say, we want to support you, Sheriff. We want to work with you. If he doesn't, ask him if he has a posse. And then if he doesn't, help him form one.
Ooh, okay. And we don't have time to get into a lot of the details on this. I'm just trying to cover the important things as quickly as I can. There's some folks that may have some questions for you. Can you hang in there for another 5 or 10 minutes?
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay. We're going to take a break, Mr. Anderson. When we come back, I'm going to bring Jeff on and Martin on and see if anybody else has any questions. Just unmute yourself if you have a question, folks. BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Mute you. And in the meantime, I'm going to bring Jeff on. Jeff's an activist. He likes to. He's an agitator. Okay, he's part of that Coach Dave Dovenmar crew.
Well, Coach Dave is a very dear friend of mine. Anybody a friend to Coach Dave is a friend of mine.
Amen, brother. Go ahead, Jeff. JC.
Well, I heard you the other morning on Coach's show.
Yeah.
I got your website wrote down here. I got to get some little booklets and maybe that book of yours on there, but I'll go there probably hopefully today. We got a new sheriff here in town, just got elected. Let's see. This is the second time he run. Good dude. I mean, this man has said they're not taking your guns away. He trains dogs for the squad, and he's getting more dogs at the sheriff's department. And he's a good friend of mine. I helped him both elections.
Good.
And he was a police chief in Danville, Ohio. Now he's our sheriff in the county, and he is a tough dude. So I'll be meeting with him again. I'm going to get them books here. I'm going to get it to him. And
good.
And we do church in the garage here, so I'll have him come down and speak to the people at church in the garage here at my car lot, which is a different atmosphere. But, BJ, I just wanted to share with you that ordeal yesterday about I told you it was fired up there, one of our senators here in Ohio, about Pastor Bill being incarcerated for the J6 thing. I got a pastor they just put in prison 4 weeks ago. We were at J6 and never went in the building. And he preached fire and brimstone, but now he's locked up for 2.5 years. Well, until Trump pardons him. But so that's what we're doing. That's like today, we'll be up on the square at 1 to 3. I got a permit. We set up the PA system and we just let her rip. All this wokeness and the church has got to come out and the pastors are cowards and blah, blah, blah. It's like, but that's what we do here. But I've enjoyed it listening to you on Coach. And I just got in here just now and seen you were in. I was a little late getting in here, but I missed what you've said today, but I'll play the show back and listen to it. But thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your support.
I appreciate it. So I'll go to your website and get that stuff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Jeff mentioned books. Is there some books that that we should be interested in? I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it's over there on my table, but it's a little pocket-sized review of my Supreme Court case.
Mm-hmm.
And it's white with all the state flags on it. It fits in your shirt pocket, or your purse. But it's a review of the case, and it's absolutely vital that everybody see that and give one to your sheriff and pass those around to your county commissioners and city council and to your friends. Everybody needs to know the powerful, historic result on this Supreme Court decision. It's one of the most powerful decisions ever rendered by the Supreme Court, and irrefutably the most powerful 10th Amendment decision, state sovereignty decision in the history of America. You need to get those passed out. And then I have other books, The Proper Role of Law Enforcement. Every citizen needs to read that. It's very short. It's kind of like Thomas Paine pamphlets. And then The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. Everybody needs to get hold of that and hand one to your sheriff there also. And your new sheriff, check with him and see if he wants to have our CSPOA Constitution for Law Enforcement training. And we provide the best constitutional training for cops and sheriffs and public officials anywhere in the country.
I guess Jeff's not done yet, and I'm going to try to bring Martin in here. Well, once you get Jeff started, he just doesn't. He's kind of like you, the Energizer Bunny. He just doesn't stop. Go ahead, man.
I had a question for Sheriff Mack here. Being in the last 6 months, I've almost been at a point where I keep telling Pastor Bill before they send him to prison that I think the feds will probably still come for me. I'm not sure. And now that Trump got elected, maybe not. But maybe they'll do a last roundup on their way out. So because they, on the DC courts, when they labeled him and the pictures and the videos in his courtroom in DC, they labeled him the commander of the insurrection because he had a bullhorn. Yeah. And then every picture and video they had of me up there, they put associate number 1.
Oh, gee.
I was with him for 4 hours. And now I've been raising Cain about them locking him up. Like today, I've got some signs I'm going to be on the square. It says, a local pastor sent to prison, and I'm going to be holding these, you know what I mean? So who knows what is going to happen after all this, but this was my theory, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I've told guys here, my mechanic and my other buddy, veteran here, if the feds show up in here, that I want them to pull their phones out and start recording. And I was going to start off on a light note. I paid $10,000 for the Trump flags.
Well, you need to have somebody else recording because they'll take it away from you.
Yeah.
And they'll have you handcuffed right away.
Yeah, I told them pull their phones out and start recording because what I'm about to do when they get here, I need it recorded. But, you know, I sold $10,000 worth of Trump flags and hats in the last 3 months. I mean, a lot. Everybody's stopping here.
Well, good. Do that for our CSPOA hats now.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you if when the feds roll in here, if they come in here 4 or 5 or 6 of them, they had 7 of them come to Pastor Bill's house. If they roll in here, my first thing I was going to say is, hey, are you boys here to buy a Trump hat? Just to see what their action would be. You know what I mean? Test it a little bit. Yeah. And then I was going to tell them, say, listen, I know why you're here. This is what you're here for is unconstitutional. I want my local sheriff here now and request that he be here. Now, if not, then I was just told him, I said, I'm going to resist. I'm not going to go. I'm not playing a game. I'm going to tell them to get off the property. If they have to tase me, cuff me, beat me or whatever, but they will get national attention. Not just, okay, I'll go with you, sir, and play their game. You know what I mean? Right. So that was kind of my standing on it, is just totally resist and ask for the sheriff. So
I don't know if I would suggest resisting. I understand your principle there, but I think because Trump's in there, I think that you could get some help right away. I think your sheriff could be very helpful on any of that. But it would be very difficult for any sheriff to support that because it's not a crime to stand outside the United States Capitol.
Yeah. Well, and seeing a lot of it, there goes my phone. But
it's not a crime. You did not commit a crime. Standing outside the Capitol has never been a crime. I don't care. I will say, in hindsight, I told everybody not to go. We got invited lots of times, and we told all our people not to go. None of us went. There's not a single baseball cap there from the CSPOA or T-shirt or anything else. Because I didn't trust the government on this, I knew they were going to pull something. I didn't know they were going to do this, but I said, we're playing into their hands if we go there.
Yeah. Well, Pastor Bill told me.
Sure enough, I know the FBI and I know government and I know how corrupt this government was. And to go there and even be close to them and giving them any reason, this is what happened. And so, yes, I have friends that have been in prison and some that still are. And I believe that every bit of that needs to be reviewed. And 90% of those people need to be pardoned and released. It's a huge miscarriage of justice. And it shows what happens when you give police authority to the United States federal government.
Yeah, Pastor Bill told him in the courtroom in one of his hearings, they said, do you have any regrets or sorry for doing what you did or something to that effect? Yeah. He said, the only thing I regret, he says, I realize now when I stepped into D.C., I was leaving the United States of America. Because they told him if he'd have done this anywhere else, he wouldn't be in prison.
That's right.
Because he did it in D.C. I mean, they're just corrupt.
It is so corrupt.
JC, I'm going to try to get Martin in here. And then thank you very much. Martin, can you unmute Martin? There we go. Martin, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay. I think you have a question or two.
I do. Hey, thank you so much, Sheriff Mack, for everything that you're doing. I found you on Coach Dave, sir, and I am it just brings me hope that there are men like you that have the badge and know our Constitution. From what I heard from you, sir, you know the Constitution, sir, better than most legislators or judges or law enforcement folks
I do.
I've ever really ran into, Sheriff Mack, and that's what really attracted me to you. This is going to go in a different gear, Sheriff Mack, but I'm going to try to keep it very quick, just as BJ has asked. SORNA, as a sheriff, you're probably aware of what that is. SORNA.
No,
okay. SORNA is the Sex Offender Registration Notification Act.
Oh, yes, very much so. Yes.
Yes. Sheriff Mack, is that constitutional, sir?
No, I wouldn't consider it part of that. But if it's pursuant to your probation or parole, they can put anything in those conditions. If you agree to it, then it is constitutional. If they force it upon you and you don't agree to it, then it's not. But if it's like somebody who gets released and they have a parole officer, you get parole. Your parole officer will be checking on you and making sure that you're obeying your conditions upon which you were allowed parole. So yes and no. But again, it's something that you have to work out. But if they say, well, you're not getting out if you don't meet these conditions, then you say, well, gosh, I'd rather be out than and go ahead and have to do that. So, but I'm telling you, it is the plea bargain system and parole conditions are very un-American and very unconstitutional, and because it's a system of extortion.
Yep.
You know, you do this or I keep you in prison. You know, so I'm against that system, and so but if somebody says, okay, we're going to let you out, but we got to keep an ankle bracelet on you, or you have to be monitored and you have to register. You know what? Sometimes I would say that's not a bad idea, but I will say the extortion process to get there is completely and entirely unconstitutional.
Yeah, I think the feds win maybe 96, 98% of their cases, and they do that because they throw the kitchen sink at you. They've got a list of accusations they can make.
They'll stack charges. They'll stack charges so that you'll take two of them.
Yeah, you could.
I'm so against all of that.
Yeah, you're looking at maybe 25 to life in prison. But I tell you what, if you admit your guilt, we'll bring it down to 2 years. And you're going, well, all right, thank you. Look, there is a God. There is a God, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know a man who he served 3.5 years for he was convicted as committing a sex offense. And once his term was over, he now has to register for 20 years, right. Sheriff Mack.
We see it's the same thing with gun ownership. If you commit a violent felon, or in the use of and using a gun in the process, I would say that you could forfeit your right to keep and bear arms. But once you've served your time and you've paid your debt to society, then why are you disallowed your Second Amendment rights? So they do it on everything, and quite frankly, the federal government has virtually no authority on law enforcement. Very, very little. There's only 5 delegated powers relative to law enforcement to the federal government. It's treason. Don't you wish they'd investigate treason? Counterfeiting, felonies committed on the high seas, securing our borders. That is an order to them, shall protect our borders from invasion, and then violations of treaties. That's all. And the federal government has stolen thousands of powers, usurped thousands that is not theirs.
We've given, thanks, Martin. We've given a lot of these away. I mean, it is we the people, and because we've not been active, because we've been passive, because we've been asleep, all this has been happening. Well, it happened to my neighbor. It didn't happen to me. So I'm not going to worry about it, right? Until they come like JC and say, okay, JC, guess what? We're going to throw you in prison. So
good point.
I appreciate your time. I have one other individual wants to ask a question. Do you have time to answer that question, sir?
I'll take the last one. Sure. Okay.
Thank you. And I appreciate you staying over with us. Clay, go ahead.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Sheriff Mack.
Clay, I saw most of your interview before I came on.
All right. Thank you. And my question is, I support justice and truth and the Constitution.
Of course.
And there's nothing that I would like better than to be on my sheriff's side and the sheriff to be on my side. And if he needs my help, I'd help him. And if I need him, he'd help me. So
amen.
Since you were a sheriff, what is the best way to let my sheriff know that and have a a good and communication and possible friendship with you, Sheriff? What do they need us to do?
Well,
Thanks.
first of all, you want to make an appointment with your sheriff, and just as talking to the other caller, and you want to start having a relationship with him, and tell him you want to support him, tell him you want to know his views about his oath of office, and if he is a constitutional sheriff. I don't care if the sheriffs are members of the CSPOA. That's up to them. If they want to join, that's fine. Some have, many have, but I don't push that. I push the sheriffs knowing, understanding, and enforcing the United States Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights. I want you to go talk to him about that. I want you to go talk to him about, does he have a posse? Should we form one? Let's help form one. Sheriff, the posse works however you want it to. You can train us however you want it to. But to have a Minuteman posse available to the sheriff so that he can keep the peace or help in times of natural disasters or emergencies of any kind, that he could push a button and say, get the posse here, start the phone tree coming. We need you. We've got to have you here, whether it's filling sandbags or going door to door and helping the elderly during a natural disaster, whatever it is. The sheriff needs to have a posse, and we train the sheriffs of this country to absolutely do that. Some have them, some don't. Every sheriff already utilizes a posse in the form of search and rescue squads. So to expand that to other categories is absolutely necessary and vital, and helps everybody.
That'd be good to have a lesson on that in terms of how to form those posses, or
we train on all of that.
Yeah. CSPOA.org, folks. Sheriff Richard Mack, I appreciate you. I'm sorry I held you over, brother. I really
That's
am.
all right.
I mean, I'm sure it could probably keep this going on for another couple hours, but we won't. I thank you. Good luck to you. Anything we can do for you right now at this point, and then you can go.
We really need everybody to join our posse. It's $11 a month. We need the funding. If you don't like it, quit. There's no contract. We just want you to try this and see if we are not the solution, the effective and peaceful solution that we've talked about. And we train you and help you do what I just was saying. Work with your sheriff and make that partnership and create that posse. Folks, saving America will not happen if we, the people, are not in the process. We provide that opportunity for you. So become a member of the CSPOA posse, make a donation. Otherwise, make a donation. Any of you that can make a donation, please do. Buy these books and get these books out there. You'll see how these are powerful tools for liberty. And it's just like the founding father said, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and sacred honor. We must do the same today.
Heck yeah! Heck yeah! Heck yeah!
Brother, I appreciate it. I'm going to let you go. You got family matters to take care of. Thank you very much for
All right,
investing.
we'll see you soon. And we can do this longer some other time if you want. Let's try.
All right, brother. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
BJ Edwards along Mr. Anderson. Let's take a break, Mr. Anderson, and we may have that may get to that video, but I want to kind of summarize why I brought him on and why it's so important. If you would, Mr. Anderson, take us to break, please.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
You kind of need to know what kind of equipment you have, what kind of equipment you can use. You don't walk into a football game with just your t-shirt and shorts on. It's going to take more than that. And we're not asking you to do that. I wanted to bring Sheriff Mack on because there is an incredible aid that you have at your disposal, or that you can develop, and that is the sheriff. The sheriffs can interpose. If JC is going to be arrested and he can get the sheriff over there, that sheriff can go, not going to happen here. See ya. Don't let the door hit you in the derriere on the way out. That is an incredible, incredible resource. But you also need to get involved in your local community activities. I was at a TPAR meeting this past week, and I've talked to other folks about this situation in Carolinas and Tennessee and what we need to be doing. We need your input. You can't just depend on BJ and Mr. Anderson and Sheriff Mack. We need you in the game. We the people in the game. We're in trouble because we just have not participated. Now, there's another aspect we could talk about, the family. And we might get into that later on today. But if the family's intact and you're still not engaging in the culture, good luck. Because something needs to be done. And if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And then you have no right to complain. No right whatsoever to complain about that. You need to engage in the culture. And if you don't look, if you see a need, that is your calling. And one other thing, and this is key. This in my Sheriff Mack and I have been out about the same number of years, almost 40 years. And the thing that I see that aggravates me the most is the lack of unity. The lack of unity in the quote unquote conservative and especially Christian community. I joke about if somebody offered $1 million to you, if you could just get two strangers to have an argument, well, the first thing you do is look for two Christians and the rest will take care of itself. We are just insane when it comes to that. And what you need to do, not just for Christians, but conservatives, what you need to do is find somebody that is working in your community, in your area, find out what they're doing. And the first thing you do is tell them what you like about what they're doing. Don't tell them you don't like the way they're doing it, especially if you're not doing anything. And as far as the church goes, and this is really important, I think, we need to understand that there are basically two ministries. One is taking care of people, and the other is prophetic. And Christians seem to be very good at taking care of people, being nursemaids after the fact. But the prophetic ministry is where we really lack. And we need to take that. Again, if you see a need, that's your calling. Unity, getting engaged, do something. You're not gonna find out what you can do or what you can't do until you try it. There's things that I'm going, why I'm a radio host, and I have a ministry, the Natural Family Ministry. Aside from that, are you kidding me? I can't do that. But hey, nobody else is doing it. So it's just little old Jim here, BJ, and my friends are doing that work. Mr. Anderson, put that video up. We'll play maybe 5 or 6 minutes of it. This is along the theme of what we're talking about here, folks. Look, if you put yourself in a position where something bad can happen, it's probably going to. It's probably going to.
For those of you that know me, you are aware that I stand firmly by my political views and my spiritual relationship. However, for this video, it is important that I remain as diplomatic and neutral as possible to express this point in a way that includes us all. Growing up, my ideologies were much different than they are today, and I was raised by a family that had completely different views than I had. Whenever family gathered, we had some pretty intense conversations. We would pick on one another, but we always parted ways with hugs and smiles. We never forgot that the love of family was more important than our political differences. Even today, where my beliefs do align with my blood family, I carry the same respect onto others I consider friends, non-blood family, strangers, and I will happily carry on a civil conversation with those who disagree with my own beliefs. Growing firmly in our own ideologies comes from carrying on conversations that challenge our own beliefs. Our disagreements do not necessarily make either party wrong or bad. It just means that we have different perspectives, and different perspectives should never lead to division or hate. Yet this world is greatly divided and filled with animosity. If we can start to make our own decisions from what we see rather than what we are told, it's easy to see that this divide is not between white or colored man. It is not between male and female. It is not between cultural or religious beliefs. The divide is between the elite and the rest of the world. Even the illusion of political choice is devised to keep us fighting amongst one another. The reality is whether you are Republican or Democrat, Tory or Whig, it has always been two sides of a single coin. Either side is spent the same and accepted the same. We can only break this cycle if people remember that we hold the power and outnumber those in control by billions. We need to start relying on one another to relinquish the control that they have by getting us to rely on them. We need to realize that the world's most dangerous weapons are not bombs that kill, but the information used to manipulate us by the elite-controlled media. Conservative and liberal media are all run by the same elite who want us to submit to them. As long as they have us fighting one another, the real enemy becomes obscure in the fog of battle. I was led to make this video for one reason, and that is to make an attempt to unite the common man, no matter what you believe, in hopes that together we can draw a line in the sand and endure this war as one people, one nation, one world. All we need to do is stand up united, and the game board falls. We must remember that both prior to and after the election, we will all still live alongside one another. Regardless of our differences, we will always agree on the most important aspects of our lives. We want to maintain our right to think for ourselves. We want to preserve our individual liberties, and we will always want our freedom. Every one of us have been deceived, but strength does not come from those who have always been in the light, but rather those that have found the light after venturing from the darkness.
Here's my plan to dismantle dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out
keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Well, it seems that BJ disappeared on me and left me doing the show here. Maybe he quit. Anyway, interesting video with Bob Marley's song about unity. And of course, unity for unity's sake isn't always a good thing, but we do need to be more united in the church and the body of Christ under the will of God. I believe that unity within the churches is lacking, and we're hearing different messages, and we need to get together and stand on that rock, that foundation that the Lord has put there, and unify, strengthen one another, as BJ has said, and he's back, so I'm going to bring him back on. And we need to just communicate with one another. I think that's a key to unity, is be able to communicate and communicate peacefully. I wanted to share an experience we had on our last Sunday call, where we had conversation going, and my wife was listening in, and one of her comments that she shared, but what impressed her with the call was how we were able to have conversation and have maybe some slightly different ideas come up, and there was no anger. Everybody was just listening and getting along well. And that's the kind of thing that needs to happen. You're on, BJ.
Hang on a second. I'm trying to get Art connected up here. Shoot. I'm going to have him call you, Kevin, and see if you can get him he's going to send you, give me your email address, and he can send you his link. He's having trouble getting the link. So hang on a second. That's all. Kevin's number is what, 60?
Okay. So
Kevin, so he's going to give you an email address. Evidently they have some kind of a guard on their system, and they can't get our link through. Sorry about that, folks. If you get a phone call, Mr. Anderson, go for
answer it. Go for it. Okay.
Yeah. And while we're doing that, folks, one of the things that this is a postcards for Jeremy Brown, the J6ers. We forgot about North Carolina. We forgot about the J6ers, and we can't let our newly elected leader forget about that either. And this isn't one or two selected people that we need to let go. There's folks that are in prison that haven't even, 4 years, have not had a trial yet. And that's because they're insurrectionists.
No, they're not.
Yeah, that's what they can call it. And because it fits into that, they can do anything they want with them as long as they want with them. They're no longer considered under the U.S. citizen constitution.
Well, they were in a foreign land and got in trouble.
Yep. And there's so much. And then
their lives were so horribly interrupted with surprise visitors at night, like Sheriff Mack was sharing with us earlier. Just don't answer the door.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, if
they came,
possible.
yeah, if possible. I mean, some of these people were waking up in the middle of the night,
Yep.
even as far as what, 2.5 years later,
Right.
and taken from their families and charged with bogus charges. This is not America. This is not the America that was founded almost 400 years ago.
Amen. Amen. Is Norm not in here today, or is he having difficulty time getting
He's
in?
having trouble. He's got comments. I know we're waiting for our guest. I'll share Norm's video.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Good idea.
You know, a little humor. Little humor for the moment.
Lefty Winger reporting on the 2024 election. Many are rejoicing we elected Donald Trump, and the other side is just having a meltdown. It has put them in a 4-year slump. I heard Kamala is getting an emotional support pony, and President Biden is giggling over her loss. Biden was thinking, I will get the last laugh. I'm not one you can double cross. It's laughable, the response of the universities. Calling them places of higher learning is just an oxymoron. As students are provided a place to mourn, they need to wake up and wise up like Elon. And it's funny watching the left-wing media. The response is funnier than good jokes. They are so naive they thought we'd believe their lies. It's really hard to fool us common folks. This will be a boon for Big Pharma as the left buys medication for their depression, as the Trump policies turn around the economy and we get out of our current recession. Well, I guess we should be more sympathetic to all those who went down in defeat. We gave them an old-fashioned butt kicking. They seem to be wimps and can't take the heat. So if you can't take the heat, just get out of the kitchen. Let those that can prepare the meal, and we can all feast on the riches. This is what we call the art of the deal. Lefty Winger reporting for WFUN, where we use a little pun to make the news fun.
He's on his end and getting that connecting there, but we'll carry on with this. And the theme here today is do. This is Do Radio, and I want you to engage the culture. I've talked about. I get this show ready. I'm running a natural family, involved in activities. I mentioned Tea Party meeting.
Hey, BJ, I got to make the connection. Just give us a couple of minutes.
Okay, very good.
I made contact with Art on the phone here.
And we're and Art Schaper is just somebody that helps us out.
You can talk up your storm while I'm getting that connection together.
Okay. Appreciate it. It really, and I wrote my congressman, and there's other things that I've done during the week that I'm trying to get people to. I live in a very, very progressive area, and the school board, which I've already talked about, all progressives. But one of the things that I was talking to somebody else about this yesterday is there has been a feminization of America. There's nothing wrong with women. I love them. Okay. But by design, there are two separate entities here, a male and a female, and there is nothing in between there. Okay. Part male, part female, AC, DC. I'm sorry, folks. The system doesn't support that. Your system doesn't support that. But it's been going on since the 60s, heavily since the 60s. I'm okay, you're okay, Betty Freehand, etc. And what we've done is we've tried to, actually it looks like we've done it, usurp the authority in our society. Now, Christ is an authority for Christians. Christ is an authority, all right? And we're maybe existed, maybe didn't, maybe this should be, maybe that. Let's question everything. And that started. And men, you need to be more like women. You should stop doing that and start doing this. And what has happened, and maybe there's some food additives and maybe there's some drugs that are helping in here. It doesn't make any difference because we have taken the bait. And it's easy for men to do that because if you give me a choice between being an authority and making decisions and being the head or being the neck, in other words, the neck turns the authority, influence over authority, I'll take influence every time. Don't have no responsibility there. Can't do anything wrong. Well, no. Adam did it. Okay. Influence, authority. Adam had the authority, but Eve influenced Adam. Keep that in mind. And then let's take that down to the family. And the family is supposed to be a vertical relationship. God, Jesus Christ, man, woman, children. That's what the family is supposed to be. But it's been leveled out, horizontal. Not only are your kids the authority or equal to you, but the government is. Things just don't work that way. The problems we have today in America is a lack of respect for authority. Part of it is deserved. Whoa, I think of the last administration, but then again, that's my opinion. Part of it's deserved. But part of it is because we haven't stood up. We haven't done what it is we're supposed to be doing. Men, you are the leader in the family and actually in society. You're to be the leader. But we just kind of, kind of busy today. Mom, will you take the kids out and do this, that, and the other? Sure. Where do children learn authority? They learn authority in the family, or they don't learn authority in the family. And they crave that. It's like a software package they're born with. They crave it. They need it. They feel they're unfulfilled. And you take the families, and I talk about this a lot. A child needs a mother and a father. They serve different purposes. They have different roles. And they know the difference, and they expect a difference. From the male, they expect to get something different from the female. And they know the difference between both, by the way. Inherently know the difference between both. And when you take one of those out of their life, or that one is not doing their job, then that child is going to do something to replace it. Gangs, perhaps, drugs, sports, sex. We men need to stand up and start running for school board, running for city council as a man, because that's what society expects. That's what society needs. That's the way to me, that's the natural state of things. That is a natural law, if you will. There I go again, right? I don't know whether we've got Art back there or whether we're going to have to take a break fairly soon. I could take us to a break and then we come back. Hopefully we have Art all set up. This is BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call. And folks, it might very well be that.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Phillips, that baker that can't seem to do anything right, according to the transgender community. It looks like his 12-year court saga may be over with. You know what Jack says about all this? He's strengthened by what happened to him. What kind of support did Jack get from the community? Did they kind of avoid him? They didn't want the trouble. I don't want to have to deal with this homosexual crowd or this LGBT crowd. Just can't do it. Just crazy. Speaking of dealing with that crowd, I think we've managed to get Art in here. Why don't you go ahead and bring Art in? Hopefully we got him. I'll add him to the stage, Mr. Anderson. I got him. Arthur, I'm sorry. I'm lazy American, so instead of calling you Arthur, I like to call you Art, and I know you like to be called Arthur, so correct me when needed corrected, brother.
I just prefer Arthur. That's just the way I've always been referred. I'm so glad that we were able to make this work out. Technology is funny like that sometimes, but I'm glad to be here.
It is. We've been talking about local actions. Now, you work for and with a group out of Massachusetts, Mass Resistance, right?
That is correct.
Right. And Mass Resistance, we had a situation here in Delaware, Ohio, and we were pretty well along, and it worked out successfully. You didn't really get a chance to get full bore into what we were doing, but you did help.
We did, and I know that drag queen story hour at the county library was shut down.
Yep.
Tracy Shannon was a big help with that.
Yep.
She's our Texas director. She exposed so much of the filth and perversion that was on that creepy man's Instagram and other social media accounts. And oftentimes that's all it takes to get these things shut down. You just got to expose the stuff they do in their so-called private time.
Yeah, it's when we show up, we're united, also in God's will, but that's natural laws. We win. And we do. That's the way it's set up. But you have to show up. You got to do. And that's what I love about Arthur and the organization Mass Resistance. They it's like you have a radar screen out there, and every now and then you see a blip on it, right? And you go, uh-oh, we got to go get that target.
Yes.
What's your most recent target, Arthur?
So in Idaho, we exposed a groomer flyer at the Nampa Library. Nampa is in the Treasure Valley section. It's just outside of Boise. And this flyer was inviting so-called LGBT youth to an event, just 14 to 20-year-olds. And the flyer listed 14 to 20 as teenage. Give me a break. This is an absolute groomer, perverse invitation. This is total seduction. Oh, we'll give you free food and other free activities. And this is an event that was reaching out to the kids without the parents' knowledge and most very likely without their permission. I made it public. I spoke to a state legislator as well as a state political commentator, and they made it go viral. And then the Old State Saloon, which made national attention by having Heterosexual Awesomeness Month in the month of June this year, one of their owners made a call to action using our information and using our call to action. And we're still building on that. We're making movements in California. I'm working with parents in Pomona, working with a father in Bellflower. We have a great activist leader in New Hampshire working with the Concord Carlisle community as well. We are not just interested in going after the blips on the radar. We want to cut off the head of the snake. We want to put an end to the perversion writ large. And we're also helping people in foreign countries, Ghana and Kenya. A pastor in Kenya just reached out to us asking for our help. And I'm connecting with state legislators too. We need to build on the pro-family momentum which President Trump initiated with Roe v. Wade's repeal or reversal. We need to reverse Obergefell. We need to reverse all of these other perverse pro-LGBT jurisdictional impositions so that we can restore, make male and female great again, make marriage great again, make mom and dad great again. These are some of the things that we've been working on.
How about making the family great again?
Yes, you bet.
Idaho. I mean, when I think of Idaho, and I've talked to some folks from Idaho, know a lot of folks in Idaho. That's probably the most conservative state that you could imagine in America, isn't it?
I would think Idaho, Texas, and Florida are in a very tight competition, but LGBT, just like any other evil, does not sleep. They lie in their bed at night plotting how they can do evil the next day. And we see that evil manifest in horrible fashion. And as you said, people have to come together, organize together, and they have to rise up and push back against this. I'm happy to report one of the state legislators our team communicated with, and I later followed up with, is going to go to the library in person in Nampa. And there's other stuff we have to expose there too. we're interested in helping people in Ohio as well. If Delaware County is up to no good, once again, we want to push back on that. We're very key on training people. We are seeing, and there is a concern that people think, well, Donald Trump got elected again. They can't throw him out. They've thrown everything they can at him. This guy's unstoppable, so I can sit back and relax. That is wrong. We are citizens. We have a responsibility. We have a mandate to build on every success and instill and insist on the protection of our natural law, our natural order, and the well-being of children, parents, and families. We can't stop. We have to double down. We've only just begun. That's the attitude we all have to have. Mass resistance really hopes to train every person who reaches out to us to understand that you're not just one person. You get to help build a team. We want to help you build the movement. We want to help you understand and fight back against the nasty forces that are going to come against you. I mean, every LGBT group is shrieking in terror now that Kamala lost and that Donald Trump won. But we're not going easy even on Donald Trump. We expect him to take a firm stance against all LGBT perversion. I can share with your audience, I did not support him in the primary because he had made a statement about supporting gay rights a few years prior. I'm not on board with that. We should not be on board with lining up behind any politician just because they have the right letter after their name. We expect them to stick to their promises and fulfill their obligation as constitutional officers. So we got to keep up the pressure. We have to double down on our expectations as pro-family, as pro-natural law activists. And we want to see everybody from the top down falling in line with this expectation.
You had mentioned something that's close to my heart, and that is after elections, if your man wins, you just kind of, okay, well, I'm done. I'm going to go back to my cave and I'm going to start singing Kumbaya and get in touch with my God feelings. And we leave those people that we elected out on an island, and the sharks are after them.
Yes.
And look at this is survival. They have no choice but to do whatever they can to survive, because as bad as they are, whatever they have to give, at least they're still there. And you need to keep in mind what we need to do. What we need, and this is critical. We need to be in a situation where we feel like Kamala won and Trump lost. That's the kind of effort we need to be giving now. You know why? Because that's exactly what the enemy's doing.
Yes.
They lost. They're fighting for their survival.
Yes.
And we're celebrating our win. Oh, isn't it wonderful? And we have next year you need to get this and that and the other. Next thing you're going to hear is we have to get our representatives. We need to get more representatives because
if you don't mind me leaning in at the top of our website, thank you for bringing that up. We're back in Idaho again. We have a National Guardsman officer whose case we are showcasing. This guy was working with our mass resistance activists in Eastern Idaho, and he was targeted by a gay activist within the National Guard. Now, he has legal representation, but we are turning up the pressure. This is, again, one of the most conservative states in the country. And you have a governor who's practically a rhino, who many people believe was a Democrat to begin with, but just switched parties in order to get elected, because he certainly governs that way in many cases. This is a guy who has done absolutely nothing to correct the abuses in the National Guard. You have a Christian who opposed Drag Queen Story Hour, opposed perversion in the libraries, opposed same-sex marriage, all the rest. And so one of his subordinate military officers complained about him, filled a grievance form against this National Guard's officer, and he's been put on leave. And the National Guard, they said it themselves, resign or we'll make it painful for you. And this is not acceptable. We cannot allow this this pro-LGBT bigotry to be pervasive in any facet of our society. Folks need to understand this. There is no common ground. There's no making nice with this massive perversity. You have to say no to all of it. I mean, you look at the culmination of this perversion. You look at Sodom and Gomorrah. You had young and old surrounding a man's house saying that we want to rape the two visitors in your home. This kind of militancy never stops, even in the face of certain death, even in the face of certain condemnation or conviction. I mean, after all, Sodom and Gomorrah went up in flames. And there is archaeological evidence to affirm that there was indeed the city, and it did go down, or it was destroyed by an intense heat falling upon the city. You can read between the lines. So that's just Idaho. We're doing a call to action for that. Our previous effort, we were helping a pro-family group in New Jersey. Greg Quinlan, a former homosexual, had his nonprofit cut off by the bank that was processing his credit card donation, the donations to his organization. We went after the bank. We went after the credit processor. We've been turning up the heat on them as well. And Greg is in a much better position. He's getting his funding back. He's getting his organization into a stronger footing once again. So there's that. So these are some of the issues we've been working on recently. In some cases, we faced some slower efforts because everybody was so invested in the election. And in the state level, it was certainly worthwhile. In Wyoming, they're going to have a very strong pro-family caucus that takes over the state house. I know in South Carolina, Texas, and other states, more pro-family leaning legislators have won. They have removed anti-family, fake conservatives or fake, common sense politicians. And better people so far have gotten into office. But as I said at the outset, the fight is not over. Mass Resistance, we are here to ensure that every elected official fulfills the mandate they promised, to make sure that every perversion is pushed aside. We really need to, I'm running into this challenge. This is a good challenge to run into. I mean, the Trump administration has these out homosexual members like Rick Grinnell. I've already sounded the alarm and said, I don't want him anywhere near any office or any position of authority or prominence in the Trump administration. And there are some conservatives who've pushed back on me, and they go, what's wrong with Rick Grinnell? He's a good guy. He's helped collect votes. He's helped Trump get elected. And I go, hey, I'm glad if he does something good, but he wants to normalize his perversion. He wants to treat homosexuality as a civil right. He literally has on his Twitter or his X bio that he's an imperfect follower of Christ. He's not a follower of Christ at all. He abuses his body with men. He calls his fake coupling with another man a marriage. That is not following Christ or any kind of religious sentiment whatsoever. This is corrosive. This is destructive. We have to oppose this agenda, whether it's our side or the other side. This is an issue reaching out to conservatives or to common sense or to now constitutionalists. You have to stand against all the perversity. So I'm facing that challenge. We're getting more people to understand this fight. We really want to do a massive intellectual activist push to get people to realize that LGBT cannot be part of the governing constitutional restoration in this country. It just can't. We've got to get back to natural law, natural right, natural order as quickly as possible.
And I believe natural is the key. Discussing natural laws is the key, because it's invulnerable, folks. It is undeniable. You can jump off a cliff and identify of not being, I'm just not going to fall. Well, guess what? You're going to fall.
Yes.
I don't care what you identify as. Something bad's going to happen when you go against natural laws.
Yes.
And by the way, natural laws are those laws that God set up, spiritual and physical. And I believe, I don't have this recorded anywhere, but I believe that other than the Bible confirms what I'm going to talk to you about natural laws. But he set those up so you would have a positive environment when you do the right thing, and warnings that when you don't do the right thing, you're going to have negative results. Now, they don't happen right away. Well, if it didn't happen right away, then it's probably not right. Sometimes it takes a while to develop that cancer, if you will.
Yes.
But it's still going to develop. And educating, I don't know quite how to do this. And Arthur, maybe we could talk off the air sometime about this, but I like the idea of educating. And it is when I got into discussion with a gay couple one time, they were accusing me of beating him up the side of the head with a Bible and being judgmental. I said, whoa. Your problem is not with me. It's not with the Bible. Your problem is with nature. Good luck.
Yes.
Conversation was over.
Natural. Yeah. I mean, as I've said before, Mass Resistance, we're not a ministry. I mean, we don't oppose or push away anybody who is motivated by religious sentiment. Okay, but you just look at the ordered reality around you. You know, 2 men cannot have a kid, 2 women cannot have a kid.
Yeah.
We're unique also. We have a book, Health Hazards of Homosexuality. I've presented that book to your audience in the past, where we document, based on statistic, research, evidence, otherwise, how 2 men engaging with each other sexually actually is harmful, and how there is widespread venereal disease as a result. There are serious mental health issues. I saw another study showing how in Sweden, homosexual couples, even if they're quote unquote married, they are 3 times more likely to commit suicide. This really shows that this so-called gay lifestyle is not a gay lifestyle at all. And this kind of evidence is essential. A few weeks ago, I had a cordial debate discussion, if you will, with a left-leaning student at UC Berkeley. He reached out to me because he was originally from the area where I live in the South Bay section of Los Angeles County. He reached out to me. He saw my activism. He was interested in hearing my point of view. We had a very serious discussion, actually. I've recorded it. I can share it with you, although I don't make it public. He requested that to protect his safety. UC Berkeley is full of fascists who want to shut and silence and even harm people who disagree with the progressive status quo. And I provided him evidence. I provided him research about how one of the biggest problems, for example, you might want to start thinking about this with your future broadcasts. A lot of people have fallen into or given into this lie that, well, 2 men can be just as effective as parents as a man and a woman. There wasn't a lot of research 30 years ago because the idea of 2 men even being married didn't happen. But now that this corruption of this fundamental institution has occurred, the research is coming forward. You've got research out of Italy. You've got research out of the United States, which has looked at same-sex couples, and they've looked at the consequences to the children, and they see a number of negative metrics. The Heritage Foundation, to their credit, they even put together a long series of studies and criticisms of these so-called no difference studies. This is very important. The longitudinal studies about transgenderism are coming forward. There was even a recent study out of Denmark. We do want to be research-based, evidence-based, knowledge-based. And we also, this is the tip I provide to everybody listening, much of the time you will hear gay activists, LGBT activists, they'll say, well, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the same thing. There's really no difference. Much of the studies that have been buttressing these false views are self-reported. They're corrupt. You have a gay couple that gets interviewed and they say everything's fine, and that's considered proof. That isn't proof. There's nothing objective about it. This is a serious corruption in our universities. Thankfully, people like Elon Musk and even Donald Trump are calling out this massive, monumental rot in our higher institutions of learning. All of this has hastened the moral and cultural demise in our country, and we need to push back on it. I give a lot of props to Governor DeSantis. Many left-wing professors are fleeing Florida because they are forced to abide by a classical natural law curriculum. They don't like it. They want to push their Marxist propaganda, so they flee. And I think other states like Texas, Iowa, I think even Idaho to an extent are beginning to push back on this 5th column corruption in the universities too.
Amen. Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about, by the way, I have that book that you're talking about.
Excellent.
I tried to give it to the Delaware School District. They wouldn't take it. Mr. Anderson, if you would, we come back. I want to talk about Natural Family Month, Idaho, etc. BJ Edwards.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Last year, again, we were trying to get states and cities, and we got a few cities to celebrate a Natural Family Month.
Okay.
The first week would be Mother's Week, and the second week would be Children's Week, and then Grandparents' Week, Extended Family Week, which makes it the most inclusive celebration, and then it ended on Father's Day week. One state celebrated that, and I'll tell you right now, Arthur, it was not Florida. It was not Idaho. Idaho tried.
Yes.
They couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
Of all places, and this is being in the right place at the right time, asking the right question at the right time. New Hampshire is the first state that celebrated Natural Family Month. Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing, especially because it's a more liberal state than people realize.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's got that very libertarian edge to its republicanism, to put it mildly. So that's a very that's a comforting development. I'm glad to hear that.
It was astounding. We were astounded, but Ohio, we're going to be working on that this year, plus all the other states. And what this is, Arthur, is a positive move. Christians are always complaining. Conservatives are always complaining. What we do is we allow ourselves, or we paint ourselves in a corner, and then we complain when we get our feet wet. And that's what we generally do, just complain all the time. And we have to stop that. Sometimes you have to do it. Okay. I mean, you can't but do it. You have to do something. So I'm not saying don't hesitate to do something because it's just complaining. But if you want a positive force, I can tell you right now that when you present the Natural Family Month to a politician, to an LGBTQ activist, and sadly to a pastor, you make them feel very uncomfortable. First of all, you're not complaining. Go ahead.
They need to feel uncomfortable. We need to start getting into more good trouble.
Yes.
As Congressman John Lewis used to say, but his kind of trouble really was bad trouble. But we need to get back into good trouble. We're very much the rebel alliance now on the outside of the empire. The empire is an LGBT cult. The empire is a progressive cultural Marxist cult. And we're the ones that got to blow up the Death Star. And I think it's a wonderful fight to be in. I saw in the last election, just a week ago, obviously, that you saw a lot of younger people moving more towards the right. There's a growing movement of youth towards more traditional religious practices, the Tridentine Mass, for example, or real adherence to scriptural authority. That is a good sign. I've spoken to young people even here in the Los Angeles area. They're so fed up with the LGBT indoctrination in the classroom. Even in Massachusetts, you had kids who rebelled and ripped down the pride stickers and ripped down the pride banners. They're so tired of it. I have emailed to you and to Kevin our mass resistance. We have a specific constitutionally based resolution against the same-sex marriage decision. Obergefell v. Hodges was the decision which forced this travesty upon the country. We have been sharing this with legislators as well. It's very heavy on 10th Amendment authority. It's very heavy on restoring the rights of the states and the people, as well as undermining the legal confusion which propped up the majority opinion in that case. I strongly encourage you to share this with some Ohio lawmakers. I'm sharing this with lawmakers across the country. We're really on the move. We've got to make this a standard. Even in blue states or blue areas, let's make the case that it's about moms and dads. And I do appreciate you're saying natural family, not traditional. Traditions come and go, and some traditions should go. But nature, natural, that stays the course. That does not change, should not change, must be advocated for. So I think that's really good.
Good. And we'll talk further about that, because I want to go. This year is really a target year for doing that. And it's multi-prong attack. The Natural Family Month is not the answer, folks.
Sure.
But it's a tool that we didn't know was available to us. And another thing, Arthur, that I think that we need to do, and maybe this will touch on what you're talking about, is we talk about a woman's right and we talk about civil rights. But what about a child's right?
Yes.
We think in terms of a child. What is best for the child? And when you go into divorce court, who makes the decision of who that child is going to see and when they're going to see it? Okay, who makes that decision? Well, the child does. No, they don't. Both parents do. No, they don't. A judge makes the decision.
Yes.
As to who that child is going to see and when they can see it. That, folks, I'm sorry, that's child abuse.
Yes. We're seeing a culture of adults that are making their wants and desires more important than the needs of children.
Yes,
We're
sir.
seeing individuals making their wants and desires more important than the needs of the country, the community, the family itself. all of the benefits we have in civilization are a result of individuals and communities that are put other goals or larger values or the future as the more important value or the more important focus ahead of individual wants, desires, demands. And we need to get back to that. If we want to have an America that's strong, that is stable, that is available for future generations, we actually have to think about those future generations. Yeah. And that's been something that's slipped away for the last 30 years. But we have seen the result of that woke, selfish, secular worldview, and it has made the world untenable. It has made life unbearable for so many people. And they started to realize, well, just like the Bible says, we shouldn't remove the ancient landmarks. So too, there are clear standards and norms which shouldn't be dismissed, abused, or neglected. And I believe we can restore this. Just as the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and 2 years before that, the Berlin Wall collapsed. So too, I really do believe that this whole LGBT cult agenda will fall apart, because it's built on a house of cards. It's built on lies, and lies are very easy to refute. It's just that we have to give people the tools and then the courage to tell the truth.
And we have a momentum problem. Yes, I agree that they're lies, but we have a momentum problem because we've allowed the enemy to take over certain spaces. Public schools would be one great example of that.
Yes.
So we need to understand that. But Arthur, I don't know what ever possessed you. I'm crazy, so I've got an excuse. Whatever possessed you to enter into this fray where you're swimming upstream and the water isn't necessarily that clean. Okay. What got you into this to begin with, Arthur?
The starting point was back in 2003, 2004, when I was watching Trinity Broadcasting Network. And I saw the story of Pastor Åke Green of Sweden, who simply preached biblical truth about sexual morality. He didn't just speak out against homosexuality. He spoke out against adultery. He spoke out against fornication. And the local prosecutor arrested him for inciting hatred. That really bothered me. That was a very disturbing moment. And then I saw in Canada how private businesses were bullied and abused if they didn't celebrate Pride, if they didn't celebrate LGBT perversion with proclamations and propaganda. This was very disturbing to me. And I saw how Aaron and Melissa Klein were abused because they didn't want to bake a cake for a fake wedding. I read about the case, what happened in Hawaii when the bed and breakfast refused to entertain or accommodate a homosexual couple, and how they were abused and persecuted because they weren't going to compromise their beliefs to celebrate a perversion. All of this has really bothered me. Then when I was a freelance correspondent in New England, I was writing for Go Local Prov, Go Local Worcester. These are like mid-level news agencies, for lack of a better term. I connected with Brian Kamaker because he was trying to help Justina Pelletier, a young lady who was being held against her will and the will of her parents in the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. She had a neurological condition, but the Massachusetts state government, being aggressive, tyrannical, and fascist as it is, they just presumed that the parents were abusing their child. I began writing about this. I was in touch with Brian at length. Brian Kamaker, he's the president of Mass Resistance. He then showed me GLSEN, the gay student, the gay, straight, lesbian education network. And he showed me how there's all this propaganda being pushed on kids. It's the most offensive, obscene material. And I began writing about that. I said, you've got to be kidding me. This is stuff that they're pushing on kids in Massachusetts. Unbelievable. And of course, it was a matter of time before it started coming to California. All this stuff is very offensive. It's very disturbing to me. And it's like so obvious to me. People are not born that way. People are not born gay, nor should it be treated as a civil right. Why is the rest of the world going along with this? It's wrong. And of course, the transgender cult, which has proceeded straight from the whole gay homosexual movement, is an even bigger lie. We should not be tolerating this. We should not be putting up with abuse. We should not be putting up with this tyranny. And since then, from being a volunteer to being a full-time director employed by Mass Resistance, I've been fighting the good fight.
You're not very loving, Arthur. You're just not very loving. What's the matter with you?
You know, says all the people who are abusing their bodies, of course. One of the common phrases is love is love. We have to have a very simple retort. Water is water. Do you drink out of a toilet? No, what love is not love. That's the idea that you can love anybody you want to at any time and there's no difference. No, an adult doesn't get to abuse a child and call that love. No, a man who has identity issues or is struggling with trauma or prior abuse is not going to find the restoration or consummation he needs in another man. Same is true for a woman. And more importantly, this is a bigger problem beyond just the sexual perversion. We are living in a society right now. We're living in a time right now where people think because of their grievance, because of the harms they've suffered in the past, they have a right to commit crimes or to harm people today. That is wrong. I'm sorry that you were harmed as a kid. I'm sorry you had a bad childhood, but you don't get to mar or harm my adulthood. And I've had this discussion with people of all backgrounds. I've had to confront people older than I, who, because they're struggling with some depression or sorrow or great loss, somehow the rest of us are supposed to suffer too? No, that is wrong. That is the complete lack of maturity, lack of development, lack of civilization that's becoming so prevalent in our culture. We can't tolerate this anymore. Look, you may have suffered in the past. Suffering's inevitable, but it's how you respond to it that matters. And the answer isn't to accommodate lies, to celebrate evil, or to promote destruction.
BJ Edwards, Last Call, radio.live, where you can see the difference. Arthur Schaper, we're speaking with this morning from Mass Resistance. That'll serve as a break, Mr. Anderson. Before you say anything, Arthur, how would you like to be in the battle with somebody like Arthur? How would you like to be in the battle with him as instructing your group what to do? Personally, how have you been attacked legally, physically?
Me?
Yes, you.
I've been defamed viciously by local newspapers. We had a major victory in Norwalk, La Mirada. In the Norwalk, La Mirada School District, a local paper defamed me abrasively as a white supremacist. I mean, it was just abject defamation. Yes, I even filed a cease and desist against the newspaper. I've never done that before. It shook me up just a little bit, but I continued to fight the fight. The level of corruption, even in the local press, is astonishing. They will go to every length to defend the regime, to defend the establishment, to defend the government control of even the local schools. We're happy to report that they failed. They didn't stop me. They didn't stop the parents. And apparently nobody cares what they think. And we've seen this great victory on a national level. I absolutely will give credit to Donald Trump and his campaign team and his larger community of avengers, if you will, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, and especially J.D. Vance, who is from your state of Ohio.
Yes.
So there's that. People have threatened me with legal challenges, but that has never stopped me. Telling the truth is not a crime, and it's always defensible. I've been physically attacked by Antifa, but eventually those same rogues get arrested. That happened to me in Los Angeles 3 years ago. I was pepper sprayed and glitter bombed at UC Berkeley. That was about 7 years ago. However, that didn't stop me. In fact, Nancy Pelosi had to defend Trump supporters shortly after that incident because it really showed how Antifa was not some noble counter-revolution or rebellious or they weren't some kind of Renaissance rebellion. They were just a bunch of thugs that were harming innocent people. So there was that. By and large, because I have stepped into the fire and refused to back down, a lot of LGBT activists don't mess with me. They know that I'm just not going to be deterred. They often want to target people that they know can be intimidated or that their resources can be taken down. One of my favorite stories I love to share here in the Southern California area. I mean, there was a SoCal Antifa Twitter feed. I got that shut down. I reported it to Elon Musk once he took over because that feed was doxing and endangering people. There's an Antifa photographer. Her name is Kelly Stewart. She routinely photographs and exposes people to get them fired, to force them to endure very bad circumstances. Well, I stood up to her many times over. I exposed her corruption and abuse in my own writings and my own blog posts. And well, she doesn't mess with me anymore because she knows that she'll get trashed. And there's a group of students now of Catholic background, of Hispanic background. They've begun filing complaints against her. People are actually now building up a resistance. They're a tolerance to these threats, and they're pushing back against these very cowardly people. Ultimately, they're not strong. They're very cowardly. They rely on intimidation. If you send a message that you can't be intimidated, they realize that they can't mess with you. That's a big problem with the pro-family movement in general. They try this moderate or easygoing approach. They talk about being concerned. They talk about not wanting to hurt anybody, that they just want to do what's best for everybody. This kind of a moderate or marshmallow approach to activism just sets you up to be viciously attacked. But we punch back, we fight back, we ask for the whole thing. We're asking for the complete demolition of the LGBT movement. We want Obergefell gone. I'm fine with, getting rid of no-fault divorce, although that's not our main focus. It's the whole LGBT cult. That's the real issue for us. But we need to be asking for everything. The left asks for single payer. They want to defund the police. They want to abolish prisons. They ask for the entire communistic fantasy. It's time for us to ask for the whole constitutional regeneracy or restoration. That's what we should be asking for.
I want you to give us how we can help you, contact information if that's necessary. Sure. But before I do that, we have the left and we have the right. Let me tell you what's been happening. Compromise, okay? But the compromise, here's the middle. That isn't where we start. The left has us starting almost all the way over to their side. And our compromise is, okay, we'll give you this, and this, but you can't have this. We never approach the middle. Somebody like Arthur forces that conversation to be more balanced. In other words, we're going to start all the way over on the right, and we're going to start talking about that. And I don't even want to hear about what's on the left, because that's exactly what they do to us.
Yes.
I don't want to hear about what on, and why we do that is I talk about the church approach to things. You have the mercy ministries and you have the prophetic ministries. The mercy ministry is, love, we'll give, a feminine approach, if you will. The prophetic ministry is much different, and Art kind of walks that walk, if you will. Anyway, go ahead. You want to comment on that? Go ahead. But I need. How can we help you? Where can we go? What do we need to do?
Certainly, I appreciate you've all listed my phone number 781-474-3005. That's my work cell. Our website, massresistance.org. It's mass resistance, the two words put together, .org. And my email address is arthur@massresistance.org. There's the website. If you want to magnify the URL a little bit more so people can see it, that would be great. That there at the top, people can see the link.
Just search Mass Resistance, folks. It'll come up. Mass Resistance will come up.
Oh, we certainly will. No doubt about that. They haven't been able to suppress us on the internet, not by a long shot.
Are there any other Arthurs out there?
We've got Tracy Shannon. She far exceeds what me in a lot of ways. We've got Karen Van Wyk. She's our organization director. A lot of the mothers I worked with in Norwalk, La Mirada are so bold. They were uncompromising and speaking out against all this perversity. I'm working with a lovely lady in Pomona. She's unflappable. She's totally taken. And Pomona is like San Francisco of Los Angeles County. It's really bad. It's a majority Hispanic community. However, there's LGBT just about everywhere. It's so woke. It's painful. I can't believe anybody would tolerate living there. But upon her, that's the mother I'm working with. She's taking a firm stance there. We have a great father in British Columbia, Canada. He can't mention his own name in connection with the fight that he's fought because he's still under a gag order, but he took every step possible to protect his daughter from being mutilated in a school system. They transitioned her without his knowledge or permission. He's still fighting the fight to protect all kids. Bill Watcott, who is a stunning Christian activist.
Just had him at the house a couple days ago. He was just
at the house. Right. Yeah, he came to my place. I was the first person he visited when he visited the United States a few weeks ago. Yeah. So I was really honored to have him speak with me, and I got to meet with one of his Christian friends from the Glendora area. So these are some of the many people that we've connected with. We're growing a movement. There's great people I work with in the Whittier area who want to take a stand. There are people in the conservative movement generally, even here in California, who are more open to what I have to say. My big hope is that we will have it full embrace of the constitutional norms, the normalcy that we had even in the 1980s and 90s, that a mom and a dad were the defining feature of a family, nothing else, and that the needs of children come before the wants of adults, and the well-being and public order of society is more important than individual demands.
Amen. I'm going to let you go because you need to get back out there doing. We need you on the streets. Get back out on the streets, brothers.
Yes.
Upset somebody.
Exactly.
And keep recruiting. I love what you're doing, what the organization is doing. It's nice to have you all as allies, but you're not the only ones out there. And you're gonna run in.
Right now, with all due respect, I do have to kind of push back. I think we are so many pro-family groups, whether it's Moms for Liberty, whether it's these, parents' rights and education groups, they have been very compromising. They have out homosexual members. They have out transgender members. They think it's okay if an adult engages in these perversions, just as long as you don't do it to the kids. That's not effective.
Moms for Liberty?
They sure do. They one of their chief spokeswomen, a mother, she's an out lesbian. What is this? This isn't liberty. This is license. There's a group called Gays Against Groomers. They're grooming at the speed limit. They still groom. We have exposed, I've done it on my own time, and I've asked the main office, we have so much to publish, we can't publish everything. You had members of Gays Against Groomers, they were pornographers. They were promoting all kinds of sexual deviancy on their own social media accounts. They believe that children are born gay. That is wrong. That is a lie. This is sadly all too much a minority view. I love Jordan Peterson. I esteem very much his thinking. But he believes that people are born gay. That's a lie. They have celebrated 2 conservatives getting married. Andrew Klavan's son abuses his body with men. But I give great applause to the Thomas Aquinas podcaster. I can't remember his name right now, but he had an interview with Andrew Klavan, and he said homosexuality is wrong. There's no justifying this. And I give Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles in the Daily Wire universe, they have taken much bolder stances to defend the family, to defend natural marriage. It's not perfect, but it's getting better.
Okay, and, we're going to have to go. I think Mr. Anderson, did you have a comment, Mr. Anderson?
I do. I just wanted to share my appreciation.
No
I
kidding.
had a lot of trouble with Donald Trump, and he had that LBG party at Mar-a-Lago a while back, and celebrated homosexuality along with Carrie Lake.
Oh yeah,
Fake Lake. Those people
That's
were
what
there.
I call her, Fake Lake.
And some of those people, and now we're celebrating the victory, but we're not. It's people like you give me encouragement that we got to hold them to. We got to hold them to a standard, and we have to build that standard, not cater to it, and not fall down.
And I want to give, I can give Charlie Kirk even a little bit of credit. He's starting to toughen up a little. He's had an excellent pastor from Australia, Andrew Sedra, who is just outspoken against the whole LGBT movement. His sermons directly confront the moral collapse in his native Australia. So, and Australia is extremely fascist when it comes to freedom of speech. You're not allowed to criticize homosexuality in a specific sense. People get sued repeatedly. We've worked with Bernard Gaynor, an Aussie activist. We helped him when he was getting rid of obscene materials, and he's done a great job getting a lot of really bad books out of different libraries throughout the country.
That's good. I have to retract some of my comments against Charlie. I thought he was kind of compromised there for a while.
We still have to hold their feet to the fire. I do agree. Ben Shapiro spoke at UCLA a few weeks ago. I wanted to go there to really push him on. Ben Shapiro even says, well, I don't care what 2 consenting adults do in private. Well, 30 years of that kind of a licentious attitude has made it public. It doesn't stay private. I think we have to start having that discussion.
Got it. We got to run, Mr. Anderson.
We got to run. Thank you, sir.
Thank you both.
Arthur, thank you very much. God bless you. Godspeed.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
We'll do. Get back to work.
Join us next week for Last Call with BJ Edwards.